Hello everyone. Welcome to our third session now on the online study group Angular. And we have Hong Tat here, who is leading today's study group, and it will be on TypeScript. And just to let you all know, next week we're having a rest. We're not having a study group next Saturday, and we will resume the study group on 3rd of October for the first proper Angular topic. Okay, and actually, Angular is such a big topic, and one session is definitely not going to cover everything. And so Hong Tat has come up with a kind of study plan that we will share with you shortly. But the hope is that we will take turns to take one of the session each to lead the study group. Okay, so you will have time to study on the subject, and the hope is that we will take turns to lead each of the study group. You can hear me all right, right? I think my mic is on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
loud and
yeah.
clear.
So, do you have anything you want to add there, Hong Tat?
Yeah, there'll be 8 sections. Yeah, I hope
Sessions?
anyone of you just volunteer yourself to study. I think sharing will gain more knowledge than what you are receiving, right? I believe.
Yeah, that's the hope. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we have a WhatsApp group that please join, and we can discuss which topic you want to take on, and that will also relieve Hong Tat of his time, so he doesn't have to lead every session himself. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we welcome your suggestions and we welcome your participations as well. Yeah. Okay. So that's oh, good. We already have a volunteer. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah.
He'll share with you the topic. Okay. All right. I guess people are still um, slowly joining in. I think we will start maybe in a few minutes' time. In the meanwhile, any of you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, or even show your webcam. You don't have to be shy.
Yeah. Um, how about do you guys have any question about the past 2 section that you are learning about? Yeah, do you face any difficulty or challenges of developing HTML, CSS, or JavaScript? You can post here.
Mm. Hi, Kalpana. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, can you all see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My name is Kalpana. I'm actually working as a software programmer, but mainly doing .NET web application. So I do know HTML, CSS, and I use JavaScript, but Angular, no, I do not know. So of course, the first part was a bit okay, but I think today is the most important part. So that's why at 8:30 I'm tuning in. So that's all.
Cool. Welcome. Mm.
Hey,
Hi, Thomas.
it's Thomas. Question for today's session is interface versus class.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference? Why would you use interface? Why would you use class? I'm new to Angular and TypeScript.
Oh, okay. For interface, normally we'll just bootstrap the how to say that. I think later on I explain to you the
Yeah.
difference between class and interface. Yeah, and what we use, why we use interface in TypeScript, and maybe later on in your Angular. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Hi, Daphne.
Hi, Priyanka.
Hi, Priyanka.
Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention. So we have moved .NET Core study group to Sundays, so you don't have to rush off to the .NET Core study group in an hour's time. And yeah, Hong Tat has as much time as he likes to finish the TypeScript session.
Yeah, I
Yeah, if
yeah
you
I
are
I
want to
try
join
confused,
the
to.
.NET.
yeah, if you're confused, please check with us on the WhatsApp group and also on the Meetup pages. We have updated times there. Okay, just a
Well,
reminder again. Yeah.
the .NET group will be useful for backend. Like if you have a full stack with Angular on the front end, then you can use .NET on the back end. That's one of the options, right?
Yep, you're right.
Yep.
Right. I think I shall share my screen.
Okay.
All right. So shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, today is really exciting section because we're gonna learn about TypeScript. I think for those of you who know about web development, know about CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So sometimes when you want to learn Angular, you have to pass the TypeScript session because TypeScript is the fundamental of Angular, and you'll see most of the script written there are using TypeScript. Okay, so yeah, I would like to um, make some assumptions. So I will assume that you know about object-oriented programming. I believe you know how to write a C#, right? Because .NET study group and Angular are shared. Most of you, I believe, you know the object-oriented programming because Angular gonna use a lot of object-oriented programming here, right? And also, I believe after you attended my section for the past 2 weeks, you have a basic understanding of JavaScript, and you gonna go deeper and deeper in later on, maybe in Angular stage. Yeah, and because to play around with Angular, you need to know TypeScript, and you have to know advanced JavaScript and advanced TypeScript because there'll be a lot of setting configuration you need to know, right? And also some basic understanding of HTML and CSS because Angular will use a shadow DOM to render the HTML page and run the CSS. So you at least need to know some basic of HTML and CSS, and later on you have a SCSS or a less. That one will be in another section. Maybe I'm not gonna cover in this study group. All right. So today's agenda will be what is a TypeScript, and I'm going to run through what is TypeScript and also the language that TypeScript are going to give you, and also the reason to use TypeScript because TypeScript how TypeScript can help in our web development, and also I'm going to demo how to use TypeScript with HTML here. I'm not going to touch any Angular element yet, maybe in the next section. All right, so that you don't confuse. Okay, so let's start. What is TypeScript? If you study about last section, you know JavaScript variable, sometimes it can be a number, sometimes it can be a string, or sometimes it can be a boolean. Okay, but the variable keep changing from time to time. Maybe in this line it is a string, and next line or the line after you become a boolean or integer. We don't know. So by using a TypeScript, one variable can only be typed to one type. If let's say you declare this variable is maybe number, and on the following line, you need to use this variable as a number. You cannot change until you declare. Okay, and also TypeScript will bring you the object-oriented construct to JavaScript. As I mentioned to you in last section, JavaScript is actually a functional programming. You only write function, okay, put in some input and expect some output, and you'll write lots of function, and you just have to get the output and display in the HTML. Okay, that is JavaScript. But imagine if you're going to write a very big application or some medium or big application, maybe like Facebook, maybe like Gmail, or some other large web application. And if you use JavaScript, right, it will be very messy sometimes, because JavaScript doesn't really structure enough. And sometimes you look at the variable, you might doubt what type is this variable is. Maybe it's a number, maybe it's a string, or the code is here and there. It's all spaghetti. And yeah, so TypeScript here will help you to bring object-oriented to a JavaScript so that you can properly construct all the JavaScript there. All right. So, but you'll be asking, JavaScript is working fine, right? But why TypeScript? Okay. So yeah. So there will be some browser API consistency. If you learn about the DOM or the BOOM from last session, okay, some API are supported in certain browser and some are not. If let's say I use a very old computer or laptop in my company, if there's a company policy and we are not allowed to use a Google Chrome and we are forced to use IE, yeah, this might sound very weird to you, because nowadays who else gonna use IE? And but surprisingly, you wouldn't know. If you go to government sector, you'll see their laptop or desktop is really old, because they want the laptop to run the business only, and they doesn't need to have a updated browser, so they'll just use IE until today. And yeah, so some company policy, they are forced to use a legacy browser or outdated browser. So some API are not implemented in the browser. So if you use the API in your JavaScript, probably you're gonna get some error back. All right. So, and also some browsers are resources hungry. If you know about Google Chrome, so sometimes if you open so many tabs in Google Chrome, and if you look at the memory consumption in your laptop, and it really consumes really high amount of RAM. And to those laptop who are really old, they can't even run the browser smoothly. So you're allowed to open one tab at a time sometimes, but it depends. Yeah. So in order to like overcome this issue, they don't use a modern browser, so they'll stick with the old browser like IE, Safari. Okay. And also sometimes the internet speed is low in some rural area. And since the old browser is working, why do we bother to upgrade it, right? But with using a TypeScript here, if we write everything into TypeScript will help us to transpile. It's not compile, because they help us to convert the syntax to a JavaScript API, which understood by most of the browser. So they'll use a plain old basic JavaScript API so that every browser understand. And this is the reason why we need to go for TypeScript. And also static typing. Static typing, which will give a type safety environment for those programmer. You no need to keep checking what are the type of this variable. And before you try to transpile the TypeScript into JavaScript, they immediately will show you error. So you can straight away go there to change it without upload it to a browser and you check it in the browser level. Yep. Okay. And next thing, it will be the object-oriented construct. You'll be able to write object-oriented programming in TypeScript. You'll see classes, encapsulation, polymorphism, and inheritance in TypeScript. Right? If you don't know what are they, probably you have to go through one round of object-oriented programming. Yeah, because TypeScript is really play around with these few terms. All right, but if you were to write a simple web application, I think this TypeScript will be a bit overkill because sometimes you just write a simple static page, and if you use a simple JavaScript, you are just working fine. So, but if you were to set up a TypeScript in a simple web application, right? Sometimes you waste a lot of time setting it up. It will be really, sorry. Yeah. It will be really wasting your time. So, but if you were to develop a middle or large size application, object-oriented will be very helpful in your web development. Okay, and last but not least, TypeScript can be used alongside with JavaScript, because when TypeScript first implemented, they are actually getting the idea from a community project called CoffeeScript. Okay, and afterwards, they come up with Visual Studio Code, and Visual Studio Code is fully support TypeScript. And at that time, the response is not really great until Google adopted this TypeScript. It's not only for Angular, but for all the internal project. Due to this reason, because TypeScript can be used alongside with JavaScript. So you just set up the configuration in your project and TypeScript will be run just like that. Yeah, that's quite simple. Okay, so since there's so many great things about TypeScript, right? Tell me something bad about TypeScript. Okay, so if you talk about TypeScript, if you're coming from a web development background, yeah, JavaScript is just about a functional programming. So you write function all the time. Yeah, but go to TypeScript, you have to learn classes, inheritance, polymorphism, setting up the project, and encapsulation. You see so many terms I list out here, and there are more. So the learning curve definitely will be really high if you want to learn TypeScript. And of course, TypeScript is the fundamental of Angular. So yeah, most people coming from a web development background, they give up of Angular, they'll go to React because you doesn't need to learn TypeScript in React. But in Angular, yes, you need. And there are benefits using TypeScript. So yeah, it depends on your decision. No right and wrong. You can go for React if you write React. But for my personal experience, I really like Angular a lot. So yeah. And for Angular, you need, for TypeScript, right, you need to add a build step into your web development project. Okay, because everything you write the script into TypeScript file. So in order for browser to know about your script, you need to transpile your TypeScript into JavaScript so that your browser will know. And yeah, so you need to have a step to build it. Okay, I'll show you later on. Okay, so let me show you how to run a Hello World. Yep. Okay. So here I am. I open Visual Studio Code here. So ignore about the example here because later on I'm going to copy the config to another file. Okay, so what do I have to do to develop a web application? So by default, it's index.html. Okay, and when you come to the editor, you can use the EMMA script, and not EMMA script, it's a EMMA abbreviation HTML column 5 and press tab. They'll generate you the template of HTML file. Cool, isn't it? Okay, and then in order to use TypeScript, but browser doesn't know how to read the TypeScript. They only know JavaScript. So from here, we need to add a JavaScript. Okay, we need to set the source. We'll call it a folder first. Put a relative path, a folder called script, and then I put my script into it. JS, and here you go. Okay, so now I need to have this file inside a folder. So let me create a folder called script. Right. Okay. And yep. And then, but I don't have TypeScript here. Oh, so what do I need to do here is that I need to create a folder. I call it source. Okay. It's a abbreviation for source. It's src. So inside the src folder, I create a file called script.ts. The TypeScript extension is ts. All right. So here you go. We have a file called TypeScript, and we have a HTML file. But HTML file doesn't link to TypeScript file, and it only read the file in script folder. Okay, what should we do? All right, there are a few ways to do so. Before I go to this folder, let me show you some simple example first. Okay, I'm gonna create a file here, or maybe call a script. .ts. All right. Okay. I change this one. Maybe I comment this code up. Okay, then I put script2.js. Okay. Okay. So before I need to run the script here, what I have to do is I need to come to a browser. I need to install a tool called Node.js. Okay, why do we need a Node.js here? Okay, because Node.js is a server-side JavaScript backend, and there's something cool is that there's a npm. It's a Node package manager where we can use a TypeScript to where we can add a third-party library into our web application. Okay, so we need to download this Node.js. So depends on your operating system. So I believe most of you are using Windows. So you just have to install this one. Okay, after you install this, you come to Visual Studio Code if you are using Visual Studio Code. Otherwise, you need to open a terminal. Okay, when you press npm --version, you'll see there will be a version for the npm. npm stands for Node Package Manager. Okay, it will help you to manage your third-party library so that you can use the third-party library in your web application project. Okay, so yep. So, but here we need to use it to install TypeScript into our computer. So to install TypeScript here, we need to come to a TypeScript website. typescriptlang.org, okay, to download it. So if you, right, so to download it, you need to use this script, okay, because you install it via npm, so you need to run this, okay. So before we run this command into our environment, we need to set up this project so that it can use a third-party library in npm. All right, what should we do here? We need to type command here called npm init, all right, and enter. So you'll be asking some few questions. Normally I just enter because we'll use a default value here. Okay. Yeah. And after you run this, you found out in your web application, the folder here, there'll be an additional file called package.json. Okay. This is the file where we manage the party library. Okay. Yeah. Maybe now you don't familiar about it and you have a lot of question about this packages, not .json. Yeah, take your time to learn it, and in Angular you'll be using this, I think, more frequent. All right, let me go to next one. Okay, one we initialize the npm project, npm in our project. We need to install the TypeScript. Okay, let me clear the console here. All right, so here we run the npm node package manager to install the TypeScript into our development environment here. Okay, so if you press enter, so there are a few things coming up. First of all, you have to close this, don't save. First of all, you'll see a dev dependency, you'll see a TypeScript here. All right. Secondly, you have a node module folder here. Node module folder here is to keep all the third-party library package inside. All right. So, yep, once we have that, we can run a script called tsc. You see? So you'll find out there are lots of commands after we type tsc. tsc stands for TypeScript compiler. Okay. So, but don't mind about this this help. So I explain to you one by one how we can run that. Okay. So now we have the environment set up to run the TypeScript. It sounds like very complicated, but don't worry about this, because in Angular you don't need to set up so many things here, because there will be a CLI, is a tool to help you to set up everything. So you just see what I'm doing here in Angular section. I'm showing you another way to set up the project, so don't worry about this. All right. So come back to our project here. Let me close everything. Okay. So we have a file here called script2.ts, and we write some JavaScript in it, maybe called let message. And okay, this is testing. Okay, with some marriage. Okay, let me put some alert so that we know the script is running. All right, but I'm written this script in TypeScript. So how does our HTML here know about the TypeScript? Okay, so as I told you before, we need to build the file and turn it into JavaScript, and then the HTML file will read from the JavaScript. How to do the compilation? Yeah, here's the trick. All right, TSC, TypeScript compiler, and you put the file name. Okay, and you'll see there's another file showed up, and it is converted from TypeScript. All right, you see here, var message equal to this is testing, and you alert the message here. So let me run. Let me run this HTML. All right, so a model will show up here and displaying you the message. This is testing, right? And our script is running. Okay, and if you come to inspect element here, this will be empty, and you come to the source, you'll see there'll be a file here called script2. It is not referring to the TypeScript. Okay, yeah. All right, but this is just some sample. Let me delete this too. Okay, and change back the script here. Okay, yep. Now we have a folder called src, and we have a script here, and we're gonna write something here, maybe alert TypeScript rock. Okay, so that we know this TypeScript is running. Okay, and yeah, now we have one file, and we can compile it like using the terminal tsc with the file name. But what if you're gonna have a lot of file? How are we going to compile all the file into the JavaScript file, and then the HTML will understand about it? Normally, in this situation, we are gonna have a file called, it's on the root folder. It's called a TypeScript tsconfig TypeScript configuration.json. Okay, this is TypeScript. Okay, because if let's say we go to compile every file, right, it will be really time consuming, and we definitely don't want to do that, right? But we can configure some setting here so that TypeScript will understand, hey, this is the TypeScript project, so help me to compile every TypeScript file in this to a single folder. All right, so I prepared a script here. I will explain to you, but this is not really important. You just have to know what are the functions for every setting. There'll be a lot, so I compile those common one and put it here. Yeah, then I put the script here and I save it. So in this configuration, I'm going to tell the TypeScript that I'm targeting ES 2015, which is the ES6. And the module here is a common module. They encourage us to use a common.js. I don't know about the other one, but most of the time we just use the common.js. So yeah, if you want to know more about the module, you can always go to TypeScript compiler to read the documentation, right? And after I build the file, where is the output folder? So I set it into script. Okay, and then the source map. Source map here for us to use as a debugging purposes, because after we compile script into the TypeScript into JavaScript, right? And sometimes we need to do some debugging, and the file that I'm reading is JavaScript file, and the code are really unreadable. Sometimes they'll just minify, uglify the file. So the script, the output sometimes will be really, really messy, and they are not meant for you to read. So if you put a source map here, they'll point the output file to your TypeScript file so that you can debug in your TypeScript file. All right. So here are the compiler option, and include here. Include here means what are the folder that you want to compile. You can point to certain folder to compile. Right. For me, I want to point to a folder called src. Okay, so I want to compile every every TypeScript file in src into a script folder. All right, and I need to exclude these two folder because I don't need it, because this is the output folder, so it's already compiled once, so I don't need to compile this one. And the Node.js, because this is the party library, so we don't need to compile this. All right, so okay, I'm going to delete this one. Okay, so the final folder, final file structure that we have here, first of all, will be the tsconfig.json. The second one will be package.json. So here you need to save your TypeScript here. All right. The third thing will be the index.html, is where you include your JavaScript file. The fourth will be the source file here. All right. So yep. So now we have the settings set here, but I don't want to remember the TypeScript command. And of course, we can just type the TSC here, but I don't want to remember. What I can do here is go to package.json. There's a script. You can add a property called build. All right. So you put a command here called tsc and save. Okay. And then, sorry. And then what you gonna do here is that you can run a command called npm run -script and then put your name here. Okay. And then you run this. All right. So you'll see in this script file, you'll see there's a script.js, and inside this file, right, you give you the JavaScript file which is converted from the TypeScript. And also this line here means I want to point to another file called this script.js.map. All right. Okay. You can ignore these two files because this is just the output file. It's not really important to us. What is important to us is this script.ts. All right. So since we have the output file here, let's run it. Okay. You see TypeScript rock. Okay. And then if you come back to the script here, you'll see the script.js, but there will be another additional file here called the script.ts, because you link the JS file to the TS by using the line below. Okay. Okay. And yep. So if we were to debug, what we can do here is put the debugger, okay, in the TypeScript file, and then we build it. Okay, and let's come back to the browser and we build. You'll see the debugger will go to the TypeScript file instead of the JS file. So yep, this is how we can debug a TypeScript. And you'll see there are really a lot of configuration to be done to set up the TypeScript. So if you were to develop a simple web application, don't use TypeScript. You can go straight to the JavaScript. Okay, yeah, I have done with the demo here. So let's see if you guys have any question. All right, no question. Or you don't understand at all. Yeah, I don't know. If you don't understand, you can. Oh,
This was a bit overwhelming for me. It was clear, but yes, I think a lot of information to process at once. So maybe I think others also may feel the same. I'm not very sure.
yeah. Don't worry about this. I will write a short, maybe short documentation for for you to go through and familiar with yourself with TypeScript, but it it is not really important to develop Angular because there will be a tools in Angular will help you to handle all the setup. Okay,
Okay.
so I show you here just for your information only how you can set up TypeScript in the web, a simple web.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
yeah. So to answer a Yongshen question, so what is the difference between npm run and npm run script? Okay, but yeah, this is not really a question here because I'm talking about TypeScript. Yeah, if I were to go deep into the npm, right, there'll be a lot of things to, to, to tell. Yeah, but I can answer you this one because if you come to the packages.json, if you put a run here, then this is the script. For this property only, you can straight away use npm run. Oh, sorry, npm start. Okay, yeah, to npm run, I think it's just a short form to run it, but most of the time I use the run script. Yeah, I think they shorten it. Last time they used a run, but if you look at this, right, npm start, you can straight away use the npm start instead of npm run script start. It will work, but for this one, this is a special case. They just handle it in this packages.json. Yeah. Do we need a debugger extension? We don't need because this is default debugger built into the browser. So we don't need to have the debugger extension. Okay. Yeah, and npm run and npm run script are the same. Okay. Right.
I have a
So
question. Is it possible to learn Angular JS without TypeScript?
um unfortunately is no.
Okay.
Yeah. But TypeScript is really good to learn if you're coming from a object-oriented programming background. Yeah, but I understand the pain from those who are coming from JavaScript because there are really a lot of things to learn. Yeah, but take your time to learn. It's not really hard, but if you were to develop a very large scale of application, I believe you fall in love with TypeScript. And apparently, if you look at the other language like React and Vue.js, React just converted every of their application to TypeScript. And if you were to write a React application, and you have to learn TypeScript as well. And same go to React. I think just now I'm talking about Vue.js. So if you were to learn React, you can still write in JavaScript, but there are lots of enterprise, they start adopting TypeScript into React as well. Yeah, and to like it or not, React is really a future to me. Yeah,
Thank you.
and there's a question by Nishu. As JavaScript doesn't support object-oriented programming, and how TypeScript with classes and other OOP concept implemented and will compile in JS. All right, this is some cool thing I would like to show you here. If you come to a TypeScript lang.org, if you don't want to set up the project like what I do just now, you can come to a playground here. Okay, the playground here will show you before build and after build. Okay, so for example, if you were to use a class here, class maybe called animal, all right, and I put a property maybe called can run. Okay, you learn about this later, so don't worry about this. Okay, and then let animal, and I strong type it, animal is equal to new animal. All right, and animal that can run, you get a true. This will be a true. Okay, let me console.log. Okay, if you look at the example that I do here, so come to the other side in this right hand side, you see they converted the script that I typed here to a JavaScript version. Yeah, that means whatever I type here, right, it will be supported by most of the browser, and you just don't need to worry about the browser API, and they'll just run just fine. Okay, so yeah, how if you want to know more about the how TypeScript handle about the JavaScript, you can always come here and play around with this. All right, see, you just convert the script into this format, and browser know it. Okay, okay, let's come back here. Yeah, I have wasted quite some time in demoing. Yeah, so let us start with TypeScript. Okay, some basic type. First of all, I would like to introduce you the string. Yeah, in order to give a variable, declare a variable as a string, you just have to write this. So let name. In TypeScript, we don't use var. We only use let and constant. Okay, so if you were to use a variable frequently and you predict you're gonna change the variable constantly, so start with let and the variable name call name here, and followed by a column, and after the column you need to specify your type. So if let's say we were to use string, then we have to put string all in small letter, all right, equal to the value t-rex. All right, and then if you feel like declaring the string here is a little bit redundant, yeah, you can skip that, because after you assign the value to this variable, like the example in second line, the compiler will know this variable is string. So on the following line, if you use gender, they will treat this one as string. Okay, so if let's say you don't want to assign a value to a variable and you want to declare it as string, you can use the first line. All right, okay, some tips here. So template string. In JavaScript, we often use something like a quotation, then you put your text in it. Okay, and you use a plus sign to add a variable so that the variable value can append to the string. Okay, but in TypeScript, I think in JavaScript is supported as well. Okay, what you can do is that you can use a symbol called backtick. Okay, instead of using a quotation, and then when coming to a place where you want to put a variable into the string, you can use a dollar sign, start with curly bracket and close by a curly bracket, and you put the variable name into it, and it will work exactly like the first line. Okay, so this is just a tips for you. You can use in the JavaScript. And yeah, the next one, another type called number. In TypeScript, it doesn't have an integer. So whatever it use, right, you just declare it in number. So unless you are using a big integer, then you have to declare a big integer here. Okay, other than big integer, you just declare it as a number. Okay, and a boolean. So it is the same thing. If you want to declare a variable, you just put a boolean here, and you treat this variable as a boolean. And for array, there are two ways to write it. First of all, you can use basic type plus a square bracket, open square bracket and close square bracket to declare it as a array. Otherwise, you can use a function, not a function, a type called array with a opening. What is this tag called? Yeah, you can put a number into this like a diamond. Okay, and it will work just fine. Like both of them are the same actually. Okay, and tuple. Okay, sometimes it will be new to you guys, but tuple is another type in TypeScript. I think they do implement it in C# as well. Okay, what tuple does here is that you have an array, but you can define the type in an array. For example, if let's say for the line number 1, you declare an X with array of the first value is string and the second value is number. So if you set the value into X, the first value must be a string and the second value must be an integer. Okay, we call this tuple. Okay, if you were to set another type into this value, for example, like the first value is 10, which you declared as a string, and you get some error. Okay, so yeah, I think you don't often use tuple, but maybe you'll find the use case later on. Okay, yeah, I think this is the Thomas question just now. Interface. Okay, so before I start with interface, I want to tell you about the missing topic from last session, which is JavaScript Object, simply because I don't have time to go through all this. Okay, so JavaScript Object here, that means it's an object where you have lots of key value pair. Okay, and it is also called a JSON object. Okay, so the value are written as a name followed by a column and value separate by a column. So if you look at the example below, so var person equal to a curly bracket, and then you have the key value, and key value. Function, because function can be saved into a variable, we call this anonymous function. Yeah, so if you look at the example here, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 property under this object. So we call this a JavaScript object. Okay, so how to use the JavaScript object? Let's take an example just now. If we have this variable and have this object assigned to this person variable, okay, in order to get the name out from the object, you can use person.name, then you'll get a John. All right, and we can write it in another way. Person, and we have a square bracket, and within it you just put a string with the name of the property age. Look at the second line of this. Okay, you can write it in this way too, and it'll still return you 50. And this is case sensitive, and make sure you are right. You write the property match the one you declare. All right, and the third one, to execute a method, person.run. You can execute a method within this object. Okay, and also you can convert the JSON object into string. what you have to do is use this function called JSON.stringify. Okay, and then you put the person object into it, and then you get everything into string. Okay, why do we need this? Because sometimes we want to get some data from our backend server. Most of the time they'll return us string. So in order to convert it into object, we need to use this JSON.stringify. Okay, this to convert our information here into string and then send back to a server. Okay, if let's say we receive an object in string, we want to convert it back into JSON object, we can use this one, JSON.pass, and then we put a string into it, and it will help you to convert it back into object. Okay, all right, so yeah, what do we use interface in here is that we want to give a strong type into an object. Just now I just introduced you the string, number, array, whatsoever thing, but that one is for a variable. What if I have an object and I want every single property in this object are strong type too? So interface is the one to use to strong type the object. Okay, so if you look at JavaScript, we have a person object here, and those are not strongly typed. Okay, but if you come to a Typescript, first of all, you need to declare an interface. For example, here we need to declare an interface called person, and in this person object, we will have a property called first name. It will be a string. Last name, it will be a string as well. Okay, and age. Why we have a question mark here? Because this age is nullable. We can set a null into this age. Okay, so it will be a number and a boolean. Is it handsome? So when we want to use the interface here, see the example in the bottom, and sorry, it's supposed to be a let. Okay, a person, then we assign the strong type person here. Okay, and then first name is equal to John, last name equal to Doe, and the age 50 and handsome equal to true. So if let's say we try to give another value into the first name, for example 10, it's not a string, the TypeScript will throw you some error. Okay, I think I can show you an example here, a quick one. So I have an interface here, person. So I put a name here, string. Okay, so if I want to create an object with this interface, so let person, then we assign the type into it called person equal to the object. If I want to put a first name, it will show some error because the first name is not assignable to this person type. Look at that. Okay, so what you can put here is name. Okay, and you just can use a string John. Okay, then you have no issue with this variable. Okay, but if you try to put another type into it, for example 10, it'll give you another error. The type number is assignable to this type string. See, so interface is used to strong type an object.
So if you type a class instead of interface right here, what's the difference?
All right, so person 2. Okay, yeah, for example, I have a name here, maybe a string. You can straight away assign the value into it because it is a class. It's not an interface. you can put some implementation into a class, but in interface, we don't put implementation. So you can put value into it, the default value whatsoever here, maybe Kelvin. All right. So if you were to create a person with this class, okay, and when you want to assign a value to this person, you cannot use a curly bracket. You get error. You need to use new person. Okay, you got what I mean here? So and of course you can use a name here, and you can assign another name. But interface here is to strong type an object. But the class here, you can use it to write a lot of implementation where interface cannot. Okay, you got what I mean here, Thomas?
It's starting, but right in this example, yeah, I can see you have it's like a default value for name in the class, and you can't do that in the interface.
Yeah, if I try to assign a value into it, you get error. See?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it used to strong type an object.
So it seems like the class is always better than an interface. So why do we have interface?
Oh, okay, I give you some example. If let's say I have okay, I want to get some information from our API, one of our backend API. Okay, so maybe it is in this string. Okay, maybe have a name. John. Okay, so maybe this is the value that returned from the API, and I want to strong type all this. I don't want to have any implementation. I just want to know what is the property name here is referring to what type. That's why from here, right, we need to have a person interface here instead of class, because I cannot simply assign a class into a person without create a new class here. Okay, but in interface, I can straight away JSON.parse. I can straight away assign an object into a interface variable. But in class, I cannot do so. Okay, this is one of the example. And in this interface, I don't need to have a implementation in it. I just want to have a property and with the type of the property, and that's it. So we always use interface. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, I try to find more information for you. Maybe some use cases about the interface later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Right. Okay. And next thing, a function. Okay. So how can we like strong type the function here? So if you look at the example on the left, let's talk about the name function first, right? If you study our if you study the last section, JavaScript, you you come across the function. There are three types. First of all, will be name, anonymous, and arrow function. All right. So I'm going to show you the name function here first. Okay. If in JavaScript you were to write a function, we write a function with the function name add here, and we pass the argument x and argument y into this function, and we return x and y. Okay, so this is not strongly typed, and we can pass anything into x, anything into y. So maybe I can pass a string x, a, b, c, d, and y 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we run a following implementation, return x plus y, we will get error. Okay, but in TypeScript, we write a function and we put a function name called add, and whatever parameter you are passing in, I can strong type the parameter type. Okay, for x, I want you to pass me number only, and y, so that's y. So we only accept number for this function. Okay, so the next thing, column with number here. This this type here is to specific what type of this function will be returning. Okay, so return x plus y. X plus y will be a number, so we will be returning number. So we specific the type of this function will be returning at the end of the function here. All right, so this is how we strong type the function. Okay, so if let's say you're returning an string or a boolean, you'll get some error on the return line here. All right, and the second one will be anonymous function. So anonymous function, we use it in order to assign to a variable. Okay, if you look at example on JavaScript side, okay, we can create a variable called add and assign a function into it, and the function that we assign are not strongly typed. Okay, same thing in this anonymous function. What we need to do is to put a strong type into the parameter, like by using the column with the type at the end. And also for y, we put a column and a number here. And at the end of the function, we put a type here as well, so that we indicate this function will return a number. Okay, this is how we strong type the anonymous function. Okay, the third thing will be arrow function. So the way of writing and function are different, but the way to implement a strong type is the same. Okay, if you look at the example here, so we don't write a function here. Instead, we use an arrow here to represent a function. So we have a function with x and y as a parameter, and we'll return x plus y. So same go to TypeScript. We just have to put a type at the back of the x and the type at the back of the y, and a number to indicate what type of this function will be returning. Okay, this is how we can write an arrow function here. Okay, not every function will return something. So if we were to return nothing, so we can put a void at the back. See? Okay. Yeah. If let's say sometimes I want to pass some parameter, but I don't know. I don't know what is the value I'm gonna pass. I can skip this number by putting a noun into it. If let's say the parameter, they detected it as a noun, they'll give it a default value to this parameter. Okay. All right. So TypeScript will give you you can write enum into a TypeScript. So yep. So if you were to write enum in JavaScript, right, you have to write this long, and we're gonna ignore that because yeah, no one going to implement an enum by writing so many script, right? So in TypeScript, right, we can implement enum as simple as this: enum with the enum collection name, and you put a member into this enum, up, down, left, and right. Okay, it can be two types. So here what you see here is a numeric type, which will be up is equal to 1, down is equal to 2, left equal to 3, and right equal to 4. Because we don't need to every time to mention what are the value for all the enum here. If you declare up is equal to 1, automatically down will be 2, left will be 3, right will be 4. Okay. So if you don't put anything here, so the up will start with 0, down will be 1, left will be 2, right will be 3. So if you were to use the numeric enum, the first value will always be 0 unless you specify with another number. Okay. And also you can use a string, because sometimes we use enum, right? We want to use a value consistently in across a project. Okay, so we can use a string enum here, direction dot up, then you return the up value here is the string, down, left, and right. Okay, okay, up until here, do you guys have any question? Yeah, okay, so far so good. Okay, okay, let me continue. Okay, union. Okay, so for union, it is a little bit special. If let's say we have a function called path_left, and we want to accept two parameters here. One of it, we know this value gonna be a string. But for padding, sometimes I want it to be a string, sometimes I want it to be a number. So it depends on the caller, how they want to pass it. They can pass a string or they can pass a number into it. Therefore, we call it a union. Okay, so we can write in this way, the parameter name followed by a column, and then you put a type separate by a pipe and then by the number type. Okay, you can put other type as well, or you can put an interface in it also. Yeah, it will support all cases. Okay, if let's say I have a function defined here, the padding will accept a string and a number. If we were to pass a boolean in here, you'll see the compiler will throw you an error. Argument of type boolean is not assignable to this parameter. Okay, so this is what we call union. Sometimes we need to use it because it depends on the use case of yours. Okay, okay, the next thing, the classes. Okay, I put the classes at the end of this section because it will be a little bit hard to, how to say, a little bit hard to learn. Yeah, why do we need a class here? Because yeah, we want to treat this as an object. So because TypeScript, you can implement an object oriented, right? So yeah, they bring in a class here. Every class we treat it as an object. So we can do a lot of things with this object by grouping those related function, related property into a class so that we group them together. Okay. Yeah, so you can always declare a class by putting a class type here, followed by the class name. Here in this example, I use greeter. Okay, and I have a property here called greeting. It's a string type. Okay, and I can create a constructor for this class also. So what is a constructor here? So constructor here, if let's say you were to create a new instance of this class, you need to pass, you need to call the constructor. Okay, so where do we call the constructor here? You look at the example below. Let greeter is equal to new greeter, and you pass the word string into it. Okay, so it will go to the constructor because everything related to new something, you'll go to constructor. Okay, so if they pass the word here as a message parameter, and in this implementation, we're going to save this value into a greeting property. Okay, if we were to call the class property, right, we need to use this. Otherwise, they'll treat this greeting as a local one. Okay, and we have a function within this class called greet, and you return hello plus the message that you pass into the constructor just now. Okay, let's see how we can use it. We can create a new variable and assign the new instance of this class into this variable, and we have a value word into it. Okay, if we call this function greeter.greet, they'll trigger this greet function and return us the message. Okay, so the message gonna be a hello world if we look at the console.log. Okay, this is how we can create a new class. Okay, if you look at the example here, everything, if you don't specify something in front, all will be public by default. All are accessible by the public. Okay, give you some. Okay, if you look at the example here, I remove the class here. Oh, sorry, I remove the person here. Okay, so yeah, whatever you declare here, if you don't specific, is it private or it is read only? Okay, everything will be public. So if let's say I have a new person 2, and I call this person 2 dot name, so I can assign value into it. Okay, so if you don't specify anything into a property, into your property or function, it'll become public by default. Okay, so to private, there are two ways to write it. It's either you put a private in front of the property, and then we know this property is private. And if you try to call this private property outside the classes, you get error because it is a private property. So there's another way to write it in Typescript, because I think in ES6 they created this hash. If you put a variable, put an hash in front of an variable, they'll treat this property as private as well. So there are two ways to write it. It depends on your use case or your preference. To me, I prefer the first way, but you can write it in the second way as well. Okay, so there are some tips here. A parameter property. Okay, most of the time, we want to create some read-only property in the class. Okay, if you look at the example on the left, okay, we created 3 property within a class. One is public, one is private, one is read-only. So what is read-only here? Read-only here, that means the value can be assigned within the constructor only. So you try to assign in other class, you try to assign it in other class, or other function within the class, it'll throw you an error. Okay, so it will become read-only only. Okay, so if you would like to pass some parameter to this constructor, can swim, age, and height. Okay, and then you have to declare it on top of the constructor. And then by using this, right, you can assign the value into this property. Okay, so this is quite lengthy. Instead, you can use another way. So in this constructor, if you put a public in front of the parameter, they will auto flag this parameter as a property. Same go to the private one and the read-only one. Okay, so by doing so, you can save a lot of line. If you look at the example on the left, you can save writing, I think, 6 more line. Okay, and all this can use as per what you see on the left is exactly the same thing. Okay. All right, inheritance. So yeah, TypeScript support inheritance. So if you want to see how TypeScript support inheritance, I think you can go to the playground to put this code into it and you'll see the output of it. All right. So for now, let me show you how we can write inheritance in TypeScript. First of all, you need to create a class, a root class. So in this example, I use animal and I have a function in this animal class called move. Okay. So the next class here, I would like to extend the animal because of the inheritance. I can use a keyword called extend and I put the class that I want to inherit. Okay, so here I can call this increment further. I created a bug function here. Okay, that means if I create a new instance of this dog class, I can call a move function and I can also call a bug function. Okay, if you look at the example below, constant dog equal to new dog, because I'm not going to assign a new value into this dog variable, so I use a constant. Okay, so I run the function .bug, it return me woof woof, and I call the function move, then I get the animal move message. All right, so this we can inherit a class by using an extend keyword here. Okay, so abstraction. Okay, this is quite confusing here. Okay, abstraction is a class where you need to be inherited by the other class. Okay, you cannot create a new instance by using this abstraction. Okay, so let's look at the example here. We have an abstract class called department. Okay, in this department, I have a function called print name. I have an abstract function called print knitting. All right. So if let's say I were to create an instance and assign this instance into this apartment from this department class, I will get an error. Okay, because we cannot cannot create a new instance of the abstract classes. Okay. However, okay, we can extend this abstract classes by creating another new classes. Okay. So the department class is the example I showed you just now. So I extend this department. So I have an accounting department here. Okay. So if I were to call this function print meeting, I get accounting department meets each Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Because I implemented the function in the abstract class department. Okay, because initially they don't have any implementation here. So if I were to extend it into accounting department, so I will the TypeScript will expect me have some implementation here. Okay, so I implemented this print meeting method. All right, and I develop this class further. I add another function called generate report. Okay, so here's the use case. So I create a new department instance. Let department equal to new. Yeah, I think there is some error with this example. Yeah, so we ignore the last line. Okay, so we can create a new instance assigned to this department. Okay, and then we can print the name by calling this concrete. We call this concrete classes. Okay, we can execute the print name and we can execute the meeting because the function has already implemented. Okay, so ignore the last value here because I think there are some error with this. Okay, all right, so yeah, the interface is the one I tell you just now. Okay, so the last thing I would like to tell is the TypeScript tsconfig.json. Okay, if you were to develop Angular, okay, if you use the Angular CLI, they'll create a set of tsconfig for you, and you don't need to do anything there. You straight away run, and you will just work like you'll be working. So yeah, I don't really emphasize on this tsconfig because we'll use the default value generated by the Angular. Okay, but for some of it, if you want to know, right, I can explain to you. So the compiler option here. So we are telling the TypeScript compiler we are targeting ES 2015. That means which is ES6, and the module that we are using is a common.js. So I don't know about the different on the other module, but most common one we use common.js, and a declaration here. So if you were to develop a library, and after you transpile the library into JavaScript and you upload to an npm, not package manager, and the other person would like to download and use your library. So if you put a declaration here, they will show your variable name and your function name as in TypeScript and show the message to the user. Okay, if you turn this off, right, so if you were to upload a library and let other people use, they won't be able to see the variable name and the function and the command as well. Okay, the out directory is the output of the transpilation. That means if you were to transpile the TypeScript into a JavaScript, so we can set the folder here where you want to transpile it to. Okay, the source map here is to find out when the script is executed. So which line are this script pointing to a TypeScript so that it can enable the debugging. Okay, so these are the basic one in the compiler option, and of course there are more. And include here means I want to include the whole folder into this transpilation. Otherwise, I have to go to every file to include the file, which is really troublesome, isn't it? And the next one, I want to exclude some folder as well. I can exclude a node module, and I can exclude the output folder that I set right here. Yeah, so that I don't transpile and transpile again. So it will be like a recursive. I don't want that to happen. All right. So yeah, I think that's basically about the TypeScript. And I'm not going to show you demo about all this because yeah, in the next section in Angular, you see a lot of it. And don't worry about the configuration now because those configuration will be handled by Angular, and you can straight away use Angular and run. I think I will show you one time. Yeah, if you guys are okay, I'll show you one time how Angular is running. Okay, let me close this. Not close folder. Don't save. Okay, let me create a new folder here. New folder, we call it Angular. Right. So we open the folder. Okay. So this is not a sharing. I just want to demo to you how Angular run. So yeah, just look at it. Don't try to memorize or try to learn from here. Yeah, because I think I will introduce to you in the next section. All right. So in order to use Angular, you need to install a tool called Angular CLI. You type Angular CLI in Google. They'll show you straight away. Okay. You need to run this line first. Okay. After you run this line, you need to run a command called ng because you install the Angular CLI, right? Whatever Angular CLI here you want to use, you need to call the ng here. Okay. So if let's say I want to create a new Angular project, I need to use the ng new and the project name, maybe called test. And they'll ask you lots of questions. You just say yes. And the style sheet that you're gonna use, and you'll see there are a lot, right? So we're going to stick with the default one, CSS. So if you look at the CLI, right, it's an awesome tool where it will help you to generate everything. See, it'll help you to generate the Typescript config here and set up the whole project here. So you just have to wait until it finish running. Okay. So yeah, and you have to learn how to use the npm also, but I'll cover this in the next section. So just wait a little bit while. All right. So yeah, if you come here, right, I think I need to open up the folder. Let me see the test. Okay, clear. All right. So okay, let me restart to point to the right folder. Okay. Right. If you look at here, right, so Angular, you can run Angular just like this. So once you run the ng new, then you put some value into the question, and then you just run npm start, and there you go. Your Angular will run just like that. Give it a moment.
Hey Hong, is ng for front end only? Ng CLI?
Sorry, again, your question, I didn't get it.
Is the command ng, is that
Yeah.
for creating front end only?
Yeah, for front end only.
Okay.
Okay. So yep. Yeah, don't worry about the ng whatever thing. I'm going to cover in next session. I just want to show you how Angular run using TypeScript. Okay. You don't freak out if you see a lots of output right here. This is very common for an Angular development. Okay. So go to the last line. You'll see there'll be a URL in the bottom. This one. Okay. Copy this and paste into your browser. Okay, there you go. This is the application that I just created. It's already up and running. Okay, so yep, let me show you some TypeScript here. You need to go to source. Okay, so you'll see a lot of TypeScript right here. Yeah, there'll be a lot of file and you might freak out. So, hey, what are there? So I don't know about this. I don't know about that. But don't worry all this. So yeah, I'll brief you through one by one in the upcoming section. We have 8 sections. Yeah, so it's more than enough for you to know everything here. All right. So if you come to index.html, it's still the same old index.html. Just that we have this line here. Okay. So if you come to the app here, you see everything is built in TypeScript. All right. So yeah, you see everything right here is TypeScript. And the component here, the HTML, is the one they display in the whole screen here. So there are lots of it, but this is just a demo. You can actually remove everything here and keep the last line. Okay, because the app, everything start with the app, right? It's the first file that you're gonna see in Angular. So you can put lots of things here. Maybe like Angular rock. Okay, so here you go. Everything is removed except the text that I just typed in here. Okay, and you don't need to keep compiling the TypeScript because there will be a watcher here. If they will detect if let's say there's any file change, they'll automatically compile and reload the browser. Okay, let me try one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and save it. You see, it'll compile another time. Okay, and you come here, it will reload automatically. Okay, that's why I said don't worry about the TS config. Angular handled it properly for you. Okay, and you see a lot of TypeScript config. It's more than what I showed you just now. Yeah, don't worry about this also. Yeah, Angular is not really as hard as you think, but you have to keep working on it and you'll fall in love with it afterwards. And yeah, that's all for my section. Do you guys have any question here? Yeah, yeah, don't be shy. You can ask me anything. No question. Okay, where is the output file placed in Angular project? Good question. I'll show you now, but I'll show you again in the next session also. So if you look at the package.json, okay, if you go to the script property here, there'll be a lot of command setup right here. Okay, to release, right, you just have to build it. So npm runs. Okay, let me clear this console so that you can see clearly. npm run script build. Okay, they'll transpile and put it into one folder called distribution. So you just copy whatever here to your web hosting folder and it will work just like what you see here. Let me show you. Okay, so I have a folder here. Okay, this is my output file. Okay, normally if we were to run a web, the first file that we are looking at is the index.html. Okay, but Angular cannot run by clicking the index.html. You need to run via the web server. So you have to put this into a web server. Maybe I'll create one class, right, to teach you how to deploy this into a web server for free. Because yeah, nowadays there are lots of web hosting. Even in GitHub, right, you can host it for free. Yep. So these are the output file. Okay. So if you want to change the output file, you actually can change it in the TypeScript config here. The output directory. Maybe the one you see right here are different than the one in this distribution. I think Angular has already twist it. Okay. Yep. Would like to know how about hosting in web server too? Yeah, I'll create a section for this. Maybe the additional section afterwards. There'll be a free one. So a free one you can look at is, first of all, Firebase. It's like t-shirt I'm wearing, Firebase. Yeah, you can host it here. And it's a paid service, but you can use a free one here. So yeah, the paid one you can just ignore because they'll give you lots of functionality inside. But if you use as for free one, I think you can use a Firebase here, free version, or GitHub pages. Okay, let me show you one thing here. Not sure whether I can show you here or not. Yeah. Think yeah, I can't show you here, but it's okay. So GitHub does give a free hosting too. You can learn about GitHub pages. Okay, and you point your custom domain to this GitHub pages, and you'll get a free hosting first. Second is your custom domain. Second is all free, and third thing you get a free SSL certificate. All right, if you were to build a static website to your client and you don't want to pay for the hosting fee and the certificate fee, you definitely can look for this Firebase and also the GitHub pages. All right, so these two are the free one. If you were to go for a paid one, and yes, AWS, you can use a S3 bucket, or Azure, you can use a static website. Yep. Can you call a JavaScript from Angular? Yes, Thomas, of course we can. Maybe you can use your give me your use case, and I can show you how we can call JavaScript from Angular to you. Okay. Yeah. Avinash, why would it need a web server? How does Angular know it's not running from a web server? I'm not quite sure about this, but this is coming from an Angular documentation. And when I try to double click on the HTML file, it's not running. And in my PC, a few PC I've tested. Getting started, setting up. It said you need a web server to run it. That's why they created an ng-serve for that purpose. I remember I read it before, but I forgot where is it already. But definitely you need to have a web server to run it. You can, I think the most simple one, you can download an extension here. Go to a Google Chrome apps web store. They call it web store, and you type a web server. Mm, no, not this. Remember, there's an extension called web server. You can use the web server to run the HTML file, but I think it's a little bit redundant because Angular has already built it for us, so we don't need to have it in our local unless you have the other purpose to run it. Okay, and Thomas, your question, can you call alert? Yes, of course. Whatever TypeScript you are written here, I'm sorry, I think I'll show you in the folder, will be better. Okay, here. So whatever script you write here, right? TypeScript is written on top of JavaScript. So whatever functionality that JavaScript have, you can use it in TypeScript. For DOM, for Boom, the document object model and browser object model, right? You can straight away use it here. Window dot something, navigation, sorry, location. Dot location. See, it's all here. href. Okay, or document dot get element by ID. Yeah, you can use TypeScript to run it, so no problem at all. Okay. And yeah, you can include a JavaScript to call a function. Yes, you can have one TypeScript file and another JavaScript file, and parallelly they both running together, and yeah, it will work. Okay. Can you try Python-M? Yeah, there would be a good one on too. Yeah, but I don't have Python installed in my PC, so I don't think it'll work. Yeah, you can definitely use that. Okay. Do you guys have any other question? I wanted to be sure that Angular doesn't need to have a node server. Yes, Angular doesn't need to have a node server. Angular will use an npm node package manager only. Yeah, I can be sure. I'm sure of it. Yeah, ngserve start a webpack node server ngstart. It's not ngstart, but it is a ngserve. Okay, if you look at the Angular folder that I created just now, if you look at the packages.json, although I run the script is npm start here, okay, but it will run another command called ngserve. It's the same thing, Thomas. Yeah, the node stuff is part of the build, so it does not get deployed. Yes, you're right, Thomas. So whatever we deploy, right, is the output file of this Angular that we compile here. It'll become a browser understood language. So if you look at the main.js, you see a lot of stuff here. So TypeScript already tried to convert it into a JavaScript, and browser will understand all this. So you can use it like a normal HTML file. Just that. Yeah, I can answer the question just now. I remember something. Why we need a web server to run Angular? Okay, I show you this. Okay, if you look at the path here, right, we are actually using the relative path. Okay, So in order to use a relative path here, we need to have a web server. If we run this relative path in our file directly by using double click here, it won't work because this thing cannot point to the right file. This is one of the reasons. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think you guys have a lot of question about Angular. No worry. We'll start our Angular section next week. And not next week, next section. I think on 3rd of October. And yep, if you guys have any question, you can always find me in the WhatsApp group if you have already joined the WhatsApp group. And I think my section, yeah.
Yeah, so guys, we know that Angular is much more depth than the one we have currently done. That's why we have planned a 7-week session starting 3rd of October. This was the TypeScript, CSS, HTML, JavaScript. These were all prerequisites for the Angular actually. So we are done with the prerequisite session. Now we will be starting the actual uh, Angular sessions from 3rd of October. I have shared the WhatsApp link in the chat section. You guys can join there. We have planned the whole and we will be modifying and adding it to the meetup also. So you all can join there. That's a complete 3 week of session. The timing will be same every Saturday, same time. If you all want to look at what the curriculum, meanwhile we update the, so I'm sharing the link for the curriculum as well in the chat. And once again, let me share the WhatsApp group. You can join there. It is an area where we are managing both our Angular and .NET Core session. So this is just a place where you all can contribute more. You can ask questions, you can join, and you can volunteer as well to take leads in this session.
Yeah, definitely. I will share you the link of my slide. And yeah, there'll be a homework for this. I hope you guys can go through the Typescript. And in this site, I put the link here. You just have to go through the basic one, the handbook. Okay. Because in Angular we use orders. Yeah, for the configuration probably you can skip, but yeah, you just have to go through the handbook. Let me share the link with you here, and I will send a copy of my slide and the demo to Daphne later, so she'll upload to the meetup, I think, to a Facebook group. Yeah, and you can download from there.
Yep. Facebook and Meetup. We'll share it there.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hong Tat.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you not next week, on 3rd of October. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I have some personal
Yeah,
personal thing to do next week. Yeah.
that's fine. We'll take a holiday. Okay. Bye
Yeah.
everyone.
Hope you guys can learn
Yeah,
JavaScript, HTML, and TypeScript, and yeah, come back stronger on next section.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward.
Thanks everyone for joining. Okay, bye-bye. We'll upload the
Yeah.
video soon. We'll let you know the link. All right.
Right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, bye bye.